Good morning. Thank you for joining. Good morning. While we're getting situated, please like the broadcast and share before we get started this morning. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining. Welcome. Good morning. Thank you for joining. Thank you. Welcome. Let me see who is online so I can give a shout out to a few of my favorite people. Thank you for joining. Welcome. I'm very excited about the program we're going to have today. I'm having somebody special join me. So bear with me while I'm going to have her come on at the 30-minute mark. So we can start talking about something quite interesting. And I have amazing pictures for us today. I'm excited about real estate. I think it's interesting. There's so many things you could do with real estate. There's so many areas or ways you can take it. So I'm quite excited. Today is going to be like a preliminary, time. We're going to lay the foundation. I'm going to talk about the basics, and I'm going to have one more session with my guests today. So I'm thinking the next session will be next week. Yes, if all else goes well, the next session is going to be next week. We're going to continue what we're going to start today. So in the meantime, welcome. Thank you. I'm going to start us off, and then I'm going to have my guest come on. But before I do that, let me see who is on so I can give you all a shout out. Thank you for joining. And as usual, share if you can. Share if you can, and also invite people. All right. Hopefully you can hear my music just fine. There's some mornings that we got to start with the instrumental to calm us all down. It's a Saturday morning. It's August. I'm excited to be here. Hope you are too. If you want to grab something to write with, let me get my book and paper and all of that together. And I'm going to turn down my music just a tad bit. I think someone's mowing the lawn outside. I'm like, okay, not right now. You can't mow the lawn right now, but that's all right. I think you all can still hear me. So one more second. I'm going to do one more thing, and then we can get started. I can't see everyone that's on, so I'm trying to navigate and find my way to a better view that way. I can see you. Thank you for joining, Fola Shade. Christopher, thank you for joining. Le Prince Okole, thank you for joining. Don Washington, thank you for joining. You're welcome. If today is your first time joining, I appreciate the engagement. All right, and everybody else who comes in, if you want me to know you're here, please give me a thumbs up in the comment section so I can see you. I'm usually not able to see everybody. The guys on YouTube, I always tend to forget about you, but thank you for joining YouTube. And if you aren't aware, we're now live on YouTube. You can join us or share to join if you have people not available on Facebook. So today we're going to be talking about real estate. And what is real estate? If you've joined me in the past, I've talked about really passionate about investments, right? I deal with a lot of things when it comes to investments. So what is real estate? Real estate is another part of investing. When I usually talk about investments, I know I talk a lot more about the stock market, but investing is not only relegated to the stock market. You have other forms, you have other ways you could invest. At the end of the day, we're wanting to build wealth, right? Yes. So we're wanting to build wealth. Real estate is not the only thing. If you've attended a few of my sessions before, I've talked about stock market investing and how to go about that. So today is going to be mainly focused on real estate investing. And I'm going to just give you a few differences. I'm going to build a case why real estate investment, and then we're going to just go from there. Thank you, ATNR, for joining. Thank you, RVKB, for joining. Please share and like, and thank you for posting a thumbs up. Thank you, Daisy. Thank you for joining. Okay, so real estate. Why real estate? I know that a lot of us have had, when we think about real estate, we think about the buildings. We think about buying a house for the most part, right? We think about buying property. For a lot of people, that's our first foray or first venture into real estate or owning real estate. There's apartment. People have apartment buildings. If you're a big shot and you're building apartment buildings, real estate compromises of the buildings and the land that's surrounding the building or the land that the building is on. I'm going to give you a Webster definition because I'm all about really defining words. So real estate is pretty much property consisting of land or buildings that are on the property, or any permanent improvements that are attached to the land that you own. Okay, so the real estate can be the building, it can be the land that the building is on, it can be any other improvements, whether it's like a lake, you added a man-made lake, whether you can have minerals on the property, that all encompasses when we talk about real estate. That becomes part of your real estate ownership or your real estate investment. You have people with mineral rights of the land that they're on, and the people who basically make millions and millions of dollars just off of mineral rights. Some people outsource or sell out their mineral rights, and they just receive dividends or income ever so often from those rights. That's a whole nother section of owning real estate and owning mineral rights and things like that. But for the purposes of us, just to keep it basic, real estate is basically the property and the land or surrounding the property, or not even the property and land. You can buy just basic land, okay? You can buy undeveloped land. It is still part of you investing in real estate. So now, before I continue, there's a particular type of, you can technically invest in real estate without having to buy the land or buy the property or do anything physical per se. And what is that form of real estate investment? I don't know if you've heard about real estate. Hang on, let me turn down this music. It's throwing me off. I'm not sure if you've heard about real estate investment trusts, but as part of something that you can buy on the stock market is REITs. REITs, REITs. They're called real estate investment trust. So essentially, REITs are comprised of a company that manages, operates, finances real estate properties. So you can have a company called A&B Ltd. Okay, so you have a company called A&B Ltd. That particular company now buys 10 different apartment buildings. Now, in those 10 different apartment buildings, they manage and collect rent and all of that themselves. Now, in order for them to buy 10 different apartment buildings, they need a substantial amount of money. And a lot of times this companies don't necessarily have the disposable cash or that amount of cash, or even if they do, they open it up where investors can pool their money together. So you can put $1,000, I can put 100,000, another person can put 200,000 within this pool of money. So this particular company, A and B Ltd, can take this money now and buy these apartment homes and then basically run them and just pay you interest and dividends and all of that. And when you're basically tired of owning this REITs, just like a stock or a mutual fund, you can sell it. So if you're saying, well, Phoebe, I don't have 100,000, 200,000, whatnot to buy real estate at the moment. I like the idea, but I can only afford so much. That's all right. There's still another way you can partake in real estate by buying REITs. And REITs trade like stocks or ETFs, and the function almost like mutual funds if you are familiar with mutual funds and the like. So basically, the good thing about REITs is that you're not physically owning anything. Welcome, Aimee. You're not physically owning anything in terms of property, okay? But you're just investing your money for another company to take that money and pour it into their real estate venture and manage it and just pay you dividends. And when the time comes, you can sell it and regain your capital back. But the good thing about them is that they pay out dividends almost frequently, and the dividends come in the form of the rent that the company, the property management company, collects from their tenants. It can come from many different things, but just know that you can get dividends from the REITs that you're invested in. Okay. The good thing about REITs is that it is a form of steady income. When we talk about passive income, we talk about all these things. Truly, investing in REITs gives you that passive income, passive dividend income that you don't necessarily have to work for. All you just have to do is put your money to work, okay? And the good thing about REITs compared to actual physical real estate properties is the fact that they're highly liquid, okay? They're highly liquid. Thank you for joining, BB. They're highly liquid. And because they're highly liquid, if you needed your money as a result of an emergency, whatever the case may be, you can easily sell them, okay? You can easily sell these REITs, and you can easily get your money out. Now, if you own the physical real estate property, it isn't as liquid, okay? Imagine that you own the physical real estate property, you're not renting it out, you're the one living in it. If you needed the cash, you cannot just immediately sell it. If you had rental property, well, the good news is if your tenants are paying, fine, you have that cash flow there. But it isn't as liquid as REITs are. So those are the things, a few of the things that I wanted to point out about REITs. Okay. I am a fan of REITs. They're highly regulated. You carry as much risk as you would, say, investing in a stock. Okay, if you want to know more about REITs, find out, you can ask me, you can Google it, you can research it. There you have it. Now let's go over to real estate property. What are the differences? Why own real estate versus maybe putting your money into the stock market? And the reason I'm not saying this because I am anti-stock market. If you know me, I am not anti-stock market. I talk about it all the time. I'm a proponent for it. And I always talk about diversification. Okay. Me talking about REITs today is just a method of diversification. You can, I'm sorry, not REITs, real estate. So you can have your money in the stock market, correct? Which is great. And you can also diversify and own physical property. You understand the need for diversification. It is more so very important when it comes to investing than anything else. Okay, so when you buy a stock, okay, I just had to give that disclaimer. I'm not against or for the stock. I'm not against the stock market. I'm for both. Okay, so when you buy a stock, guess what? You're buying a stock hoping that it's going to appreciate, right? You're buying a stock hoping that you're going to get some form of dividends from it. Hopefully the company keeps performing well and it's going to appreciate. You're not assured an appreciation. You're not really assured that the dividends are going to continue. Okay, so when you invest in the stock market, nothing is assured. There's still that amount of risk. Okay, so unlike the stock market, when you buy real estate, whether it's land, undeveloped land, you buy apartment buildings, office space rental, whatever have you, when you buy those properties, essentially you own it. You own it. Come what may, you can always sell it. If everything else is equal, you can always sell it and get the money you put in back. Everything else being equal. Even if, let's just say something happens to it, right? And let's say fire burns it down. Owning real estate property, you need to have insurance. And if you have a good insurance, even if your property is lost, even if you lost your property or you lose your property, that's the word. Even if you lose your property, insurance covers you. Okay, so I would say compared to stock market investing, when you're talking about risk, buying property, physical property, isn't as risky as real estate and as stock market investing. All things being equal, because there's some physical property that you buy in particular areas that may not be worth your money. Okay, so all things being equal. So when you buy physical property, you own it. You have the ability then to have cash flow, right? As I mentioned earlier, a lot of us come in contact with real estate when we're wanting to buy our first homes. I'm going to have a session that I talk about real estate financing, how to find the better financing, how to set yourself up for something for lower interest rates. The lower the interest rates you have, the higher the ability you have to maybe rent out the property and have a higher cash flow after all is said and done. So when you pay rent, when you pay property taxes, when you pay every other thing else that the property needs, part of having a residual left over is you making sure that your interest rate that you're paying on that loan on that mortgage is low. If you can keep that interest rate low, okay, you're spending less money on interest, you're renting out the property for maybe more than the current mortgage that you're paying on it. After all is said and done, at the end of every month, you're making some type of residual income and you're having some type of cash flow. Okay, so nobody goes into real estate investing to gift out their property or gift out their home. Okay, a lot of us go into real estate investing because we want to see cash flow and we want to see an appreciation on that home, right? So those are things to keep in mind when it comes to real estate investing. If you keep in mind that you're wanting to see cash flow and you're wanting to see an appreciation, that's going to direct where and how and when you purchase that property. It's going to direct who and what methods you implement to either renting out the property, to either renting it out to businesses, making it a corporate housing or single family home housing, or splitting up the property into separate living quarters where you can easily contain several people at the same time. So these are all the things that you should be thinking about as I speak. Okay, I may not go into all of them in depth, but just keep it in mind. All right, so I talked about why real estate investing as compared to stock market investing. I talked about cash flow. I talked about appreciation over time. So one of the ways where when you hear people talk about being a real estate mogul and doing quite well in the real estate sector, investing, whatnot, it is because at a certain point in time, they bought property that was very undervalued. They bought property that was either very undervalued or its normal value, and the area that the property is around maybe saw certain things come into town that made the value of the real estate appreciate. For example, let's just say you live in Texas. I'm going to use the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex as an example. If you bought property within Dallas, maybe 30 years ago, okay, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, compared to now, it wasn't as expensive, right? So over time, the value has appreciated just because Dallas has grown as a metroplex area. A lot of companies have come into town. A lot of businesses are being set up. A lot of people are migrating. What does that do? With a lot of people coming in, it drives the cost, or it drives the demand. Yes, it drives the demand for property up. It drives the demand for housing up. It drives the demand for office spaces up. And when demand goes up, and if supply stays the same or supply is limited, guess what happens? The supply now starts selling at a premium. Okay, when the supply now starts selling at a premium, that's how you start seeing home values in the area, office space in the area. You start seeing their values increase. So when you go to buy property, whether it's land, whether it's whatever have you, look around the area, just do some research. Find out what is the propensity of this area in the next 5-10 years becoming a hot spot. Okay, if you're able to have the Midas touch and you buy property in an area that becomes a hotspot, trust me, you're going to be bank rolling in money as time goes on. Just like stock market investing, you want to be sure that you're investing for the long run. If you look at maybe a mortgage, home appreciation values, if you look at them on the graph, you will see that over time it appreciates, right? Over time, home values appreciate. Naturally, there's really never a time where over time a significant amount of home values have depreciated, unless we're talking about maybe industry. If you are in Detroit, for example, if you lived in Detroit or you had property in Detroit, and then Detroit, USA, Michigan, Detroit, Michigan, yes? Okay, sorry, I digress. I need to know my states. Okay, so if you lived in Detroit, whenever industry migrated out of Detroit, guess what? A lot of those property values probably dropped, right? So you just that's one of the risks that you face when you buy in certain areas. But over time, you don't really see that happening. Now, imagine if you bought a house years and years ago, or you bought office space on Rodeo Drive, or in Manhattan, New York, or in London years and years ago in different areas, in certain areas. If you price them today, they're so expensive, which is why it is very important when it comes to real estate that early entry, just like the stock market, early entry into real estate is what you want to look for. A lot of people want to buy properties. Now I'm talking about investment properties, and this can even be your own personal property. A lot of people want to buy property in areas that are already booming. Okay, when you do that, just know that you're going to be buying at a premium. So why don't you take some time, do your research, and just look around the city you're wanting to buy the house in, and find an area that doesn't quite have a lot of people, and then buy the house there. Because over time, if you're paying attention to population growth, what happens is population growth. The population is first of all centered around a center. Like, for example, let's start with downtown. If a population is centered around a certain thing or downtown, over time it starts fanning out. It starts fanning out as the city populates. It starts fanning out and growing. Okay, what happens? People start migrating to the suburbs. The last 50 years in the US, we've seen a huge migration to the suburbs, and not only in the US, in other developing nations. In other developed nations or Western nations, we've seen a huge migration out, people going out to the suburbs, and also jobs following out there in the suburbs because property, land, etc., is less expensive than in the city. So one of the things that you want to consider is that. Now, I'm going to give you an example. If you're familiar with Austin, Texas, 10 years ago, even 20 years, 15 years ago, was almost, it didn't have much. A lot of people were not there. Property values were so inexpensive. Okay. Now Austin is being touted like another Silicon Valley, because a lot of tech companies from California, because California had, well, if you live in California right now, I apologize. Depending on what part of California you live in, you're probably spending a lot when it comes to property taxes and all of that. So it is just an expensive state. So a lot of people, a lot of companies are migrating out to the South, where land is cheap, housing is virtually inexpensive, and you can basically have employees for less cost than if you were in, say, cities like San Francisco, LA, or New York, etc. So if you had bought a home in Austin, okay, I know that because I used to live there. A 2-bedroom, 2-bath apartment used to cost $200,000. Now it is not anywhere near that at all. At all. It is, and I'm talking about a property that was by the lake. a property that's by the lake used to even cost much less, but nowadays it's probably up in the half a million or more range. Okay, if I had money then, if I had that type of money, I probably would have bought it, but I didn't. But that's all right, because this world is huge and there are many different opportunities that abound. Okay, so cash flow, appreciation, leverage, tax write-offs are a reason to invest in real estate, depending on what you're investing in. If it's a rental property, you can get certain tax write-offs. And when we talk about the 1%, sometimes we talk about the 1% and we vilify the 1%. But the reason why they're the 1% is because they have mastered a lot of these things I'm talking about. They have sophisticated things that help them write off a lot on their taxes. So tax write-offs, if it's a rental property, forced equity, etc., all of these topics come into real estate. I'm just rushing today because I want to bring on my guest. We're going to be talking about something very related, but I want to bring her on so you guys are not only hearing from me, you're hearing from somebody else like me. So bear with me. It's going to take me some time. I think she should be ready. Let me check with her if she's ready. In the meantime, we're going to just have an interlude. If you want to share, if you want to grab a cup of something to drink, if you want to ask questions, please post your questions so we can answer them as we go. But let me bring my guest on. I'm going to turn on the music. Let me see if she's ready. Okay, hang with me. I'm not done. We're not done yet. I'm just bringing on the guest to segue into a different, into more of what I was talking about in real estate. And next week, as I'm going to have a few of the people that I'm going to have come on. I'm going to have actual real estate agents come on. I'm going to have actual property investment. I'm sorry, I'm blanking right now. I'm going to have people who do property investments come on, who invest in real estate just to rent them out. I'm going to have them come on, and I'm working on getting a loan officer to come on to talk about the ins and outs of financing, whether it's an investment property, whether it's a first home, a personal property. I'm going to talk about the different schemes that are there to help you with your first home, whether it's down payment assistance, whether it's veterans assistance, all of those things I'm going to put out there for people who are looking to buy, to buying their first homes. For people who are looking to invest, I'm going to also have somebody to talk about that, the financing aspect as well. I'm just checking with my guest. All right, so I think she's ready. Let's get her on. So bear with me a second. See, the thing about technology is this. Oh, there she is. I can see her, but we can't hear you. Just give us a second. Let me add you. Thing about technology is this. I am trying now. If I tell you that technology is my strength, it is a weakness. And that's all right. We're all allowed to have weaknesses. So let me bring her on and then we can get started. Okay, Cynthia, I'm bringing you on. Okay. All right. Let me just make sure she's good. Okay, there she is. Oh, look, there she is.
Hi.
Okay. Hi, we can hear you just fine. Let me just make sure everything looks good. We can hear you. Bear with me a second. And everybody else, if you're still with us, please, I want to see some comments. Give us a thumbs up, a hands up, a high five, a hi, I'm here, I'm okay. Make Cynthia feel special. It's her first time joining us on the feed today, and she's my first guest, which is awesome. Okay, so everybody else, we good? All right, I think we are. Welcome, Cynthia.
Hi.
I think we didn't even plan to color coordinate, but we somehow did color coordinate. That is awesome. Okay, you look great. Thank you for joining and thank you for coming on last minute with me. Okay, so my viewers are here. They're ready. They're wanting to download all your knowledge. For those of you who don't know Cynthia, Cynthia is an interior designer, stylist, real estate mogul, extraordinary, real estate mogul in the making, extraordinary.
Oh, yeah, I'll take
that. All right. Nothing wrong with tooting your own horn. Cynthia has, she's very, very, she's very, very active on social media. If you follow her page, Studio 1912, you would see the amazing things that she's been doing on there. I'm sorry.
No, I said you can see my fan. Oh my God, I'm fanning myself.
Oh, that's all right. We can see your fan. I have my fan on, so you just can't see it. It gets quite hot under these lights, but your lighting is perfect. Everything is great. We can see you just fine and we can hear you. Okay, so if you follow her online, she does amazing things, but I'm not going to talk too much. I'm going to let her speak for herself. So Cynthia, a lot of people are wondering, who are you? What do you do? What do you want us to know about you? But so who is Cynthia?
Okay, so hi everyone. Thank you, Phoebe, for involving me in this Frugal Phoebes live stream. So my name is Cynthia, Cynthia Tabe, as most people know me, and most people know me as a PR girl because I used to do PR for music entertainers as well as fashion designers. But I have switched now, so my new tag is interior designer and interior stylist. Okay, sorry. so I am a London-based interior designer, interior stylist. So I work with in property investors mainly across the UK. I just, like I said, transitioned from PR to this, which is my new journey. So basically, I decided actually to go into interior design 12 years ago, but somehow along the line, I switched to PR, which because I was blogging, it took me to that direction. And I'm a big believer of always, doing what you love, which starts from the talent that you have. So you need to sort of ascertain what sort of creativity you have, what sort of talent you have, what sort of gifts God has given you, because we're all different and we all have our own, talents. So I'm a big believer in that. So even though I did interior design diploma and I fell into PR, something was still niggling me and, pushing me, pulling me, should I say, towards it. And I had to have a long, hard think about it and decided that, you know what, I had the intention of going into it, so I might as well do it now. So, and that's how I went back into interior design. And now, like I said, I work with mainly investors. So do you want me to go on about this, or are you going to ask me more questions?
I'm going to ask you more questions, but that's great. I just wanted the audience to know who you are, what you do, how you came into this, and the passion that you have for it. And you talking about your PR background and then segueing into interior. From an outside perspective, from somebody who doesn't know as much about either PR or interior designing, to me, they're not too far from each other in terms of things that you do. You're still out there, you're still talking to people, you're still basically, it's like you're bringing people, you're having people buy an idea, whether the idea is PR for people or interior designing spaces. So you're exact properties. So essentially you're having people buy the idea. Okay, so you mentioned having this passion 12 years ago. Have you always done interior in terms of you professionally, or what was your what did you do before joining and becoming and following this passion?
Okay, so I have always been interested in property. This is why interior came into it.
Yes.
For a very, very long time when I was growing up, I was always into property. And there are quite a few shows here in the UK that I grew up watching. And even till today, I still watch, even till this minute, before I actually joined watching yes, I was watching a property show. And that is what actually got me thinking about interior. And everything that I try to do, I always try and link it back to Cameroon. And I know that Cameroon, where we're from, we struggle, and most Africans who identify with this, we struggle with presentation, we struggle with creativity, we struggle to making things look nice. I mean, a few people grasp it, but the majority don't. And I've also realized that as well, that the majority don't really live in luxury, but you don't really need to live in luxury to have a beautiful space. You can live in a caravan, as we call it in Cameroon, which is, made of wood, and you can have a beautiful interior. I mean, most houses in the US are built from wood, but you will not tell. You just sound like
yes,
a lot of wood houses, but not really. It's actually like the Carabao, Cameroon style. But it's still beautiful. So you can live anywhere, but it's just about beautifying it. And me deciding to go into interior design was that really, that I want to take my knowledge and essentially take it back to where I'm from. Work in Cameroon, work in Africa. Let people live well, because where you live affects your well-being. Yes. Emotionally, physically, and everything else. So everyone deserves to live in a beautiful space, regardless whether they're poor or rich. And that was my main reason as well for jumping into this, as well as the love for property. And he asked, I didn't always, do this. My sort of professional background stemmed from insurance. I'd worked in the insurance industry for about 10 years. And while doing PRs, because I see myself as a creative person. So I love things that allow me to put my ideas, my thoughts, put things together and have a sort of like a product or something at the end. So that's me, that's my essence. So working in insurance, gave me that professional experience, how to work, how to treat a business, basically, that I'm going to, use it to my own advantage. But being creative, doing PR, or, doing interior design is really where my essence and my core self lies.
Awesome. You mentioned quite a few important nuggets that I'm just going to bounce off of. You've talked about where you live affects your health, right? Where you live affects your health, both physically and mentally, and maybe sometimes even spiritually, Exactly. And in order for you to live the best you need to make sure that your surrounding basically helps you do that. And a few of the things that you mentioned as you were speaking, something that just kept on ringing in my mind is purpose and passion. Passion and purpose. A lot of times we may have great business ideas, we may have things that we want to go into, but sometimes people only do it for the monetary value, right? I find that if you're able to find that intersection between purpose and passion, or passion and fulfilling a purpose, an altruistic purpose, so a purpose that is having an idea that will benefit society, is a good place to be, because no matter how many years pass, as long as you have that passion and then you have the purpose, and as long as the both intersect, you're creating value, right? For society around you, you're impacting. So it doesn't matter whether you're a PR person or an interior designer or whatever have you. One of the things that you've really said that stands out to me is purpose and passion somehow need to intersect. Okay, so thank you for giving me, and also your background in insurance. I'm pretty sure that whenever you go into maybe do up a property, or when it comes to even property investing yourself, okay, do you have experience with maybe property investing, buying a home or all of that? Do you?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So even before, I'm sure that before you did that, you had to consider the risk that abound in whether the area it is you're trying to invest in, or the type of property you're trying to invest in, right? You thought about the risk. And I'm thinking that your insurance background aided or give you the tools or the soft tools or technical tools, let me put it that way, give you the technical tools to be able to look at a property you want to buy, assess maybe some type of risk that may be inherent in that property before going for it?
Right, yes. But here typically you need a surveyor. You need a
Right,
surveyor.
right.
Yeah, survey the property, survey, the area to make sure that, it's livable.
Yeah, yeah.
Also that the house is structurally sound, but you
Mm-hmm.
also need insurance in terms of content building. You need also what do you call it, life insurance, because when you're going to take a
Yeah,
mortgage, you want to make sure that they're covered, in case anything
yeah,
happens. So here it's like, when I was doing it, I had to have life insurance. Life insurance was definitely one of the prerequisite of me having that mortgage, because obviously, like I
yeah.
said, they want to cover their backs. They want to make sure that if anything is to happen to me, they got their money. Yeah.
I mean, that makes sense, right? And that's one of the things that I mentioned in the earlier segment about insurance. People get homes without really realize. People want to invest in property or purchase property without really realizing all that goes into ownership. You have
Right.
expenses like property taxes. You have home insurance you need to get, and like you just mentioned, even your own life insurance, you need to get that
Right.
as well. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. So thank you for bringing that the point on insurance up. Um,
Hmm.
the other question I was going to ask is this: in your as you go out there designing spaces and recreating spaces, what are some of the different schemes that you have seen in terms of property investment? When we talk about property investment, we're talking about do people? Well, let me rephrase this. What are some of the schemes that you have seen as far as income generation is concerned? What are
Okay.
people doing out there? What are some of the ideas that are out there in terms of generating income within a property that you own or even
Right.
rent?
So I typically work with property investors, as I earlier said. So my client base is sort of like divided into three. So I have the
Okay.
property investors, I have the residential clients, and I have the commercial clients. So
Okay.
in terms of property investors, I have come to realize that there's so many different property strategies, as it's called, in the UK market. So you have, BTL, which is, buy to let, and I'll come back
Hmm.
to it. I'm list them and then come back to
Okay.
them. So you have BTL, which is buy to let property strategy. You have BRR, which is buy, you refurb, and then you resell. And then you have the rent to rent, HMO. So this is where you basically rent a property to rent it out, and I'll come back to that. And then you have also rent to rent service apartments, and again, is you rent a property to rent it out. So if I go back to my list, the BTL, buy to let property strategy is pretty much straightforward. So what property investors typically do is look for properties that are below market value or BMV. And to get that is either you are speaking directly to a homeowner, and
Hmm.
normally if a homeowner is in trouble, if they have too many debts or there's been a bereavement in the family where they need to, offload the property, then
Hmm.
definitely can be sold at,
Okay.
below market value. Sometimes as well, it ends up in auction. So this is where loads of property investors, and even I look at the auctions as well from time to time, can go to get like really great properties that are
Okay.
very, very cheap. And what you typically do is you're going to buy it
Okay.
and do it up and then rent it.
Okay.
So yeah, so you buy it, you do it up, and then you put it on the market for rent if you choose that strategy. And the other strategy is BRR, which is buy, refurb, and then resell. So this follows the same thing as you looking in searching in auction,
Hmm.
contacting homeowners who are looking to offload their properties. So you can get them again at below market value. And what you typically do is you're going to refurb it, and then you're going to resell so that you can make a
Okay.
profit. So when you're refurbishing it, you're refurbishing so that you're adding value to the
Okay.
property. So
Okay.
when you're getting a property below market value, it needs to be a property that you can actually add value to it and then resell. If you cannot add value, then there isn't really, not much point in
Right.
getting.
Okay. Okay.
So you want to sell it at a profit. So That's the BRR strategy. And sometimes what investors do is they actually refinance. So to make sure that they have more money, more capital to go on and get a property, they will buy, they will refurb, and then they refinance it once they've gotten the valuation. So let's say you bought a property for 40K and you've done it up for like 10K, and it's now worth 70K. So it's now worth 70K. So you spent 50K buying it up, and you've made 20K. So you go and you refinance it, and sometimes it can give you, you can maybe leave like 5,000 or 2,000 in there and take out the money and move on to your next property. And that's how people end up having, 10, 15, 20 properties. It's not because they have the money time. It's because they started with one property and then they refinance from that property and then, move on. So while, either when you're renting it out, either someone's paying you rent and you're covering your mortgage, so you don't have to worry. Or if you buy refurb and then you're selling it on. So once you get the money, it's gonna go back. You're gonna it's like you're recycling your money. Right. So those are the two strategies. The next strategy is rent to rent, HMO, or house of multiple occupation. This is, you don't need to buy the property. So this is where you're seeing many investors are going in this route, because you don't need to have money to buy a property to be able to make money off. So many investors are doing this, and so many young men and women are going into this. They have courses and many mentors in the market that are helping them along the way. So basically, it go to but you have to be registered as a company. You cannot do it as an individual. You have to be registered. And when you approach like an estate agent, or in the US terms, or you go direct to landlord, you're telling the landlord that you have clients or you have tenants that are waiting to move in. You have professional tenants that are waiting to move in, and there are some landlords that have many properties that they're tired of managing it or themselves. Chasing tenants. Sometimes when you're getting older, you just want to have a more relaxed. So you want to offload, your properties to someone else that can handle it. So you can come into an agreement, into contract with that person and say, okay, you can give me this agreed rent, and you're going to have it for like 5 years. Every month, this is how much you're going to pay me. And then they, the property investor that takes on the property accepts or declines and, negotiates until it suits them. And then they take on the property, and then it's up to them now to look for the tenants, do all the vetting, and pay all the bills, and then every month pay the landlord. So this is what the people are doing. And in terms of the UK, I mean, prices, especially in London, are so high that, I don't know how it is in the US, that people cannot afford to live by themselves anymore. So now the idea of co-living it's such a big thing now. It's like everyone practically lives with somebody. And in terms of co-living or house of multiple occupancy, it's a house where 3 or more people live in that are not related, and you share. You all have your rooms, but you share like the communal space, like the living area, the kitchen, and some of the bathrooms. But what investors are doing nowadays is putting ensuite bathrooms and ensuite shower rooms in the rooms, so then you don't have to be sharing bathrooms. Yes, exactly. So once you do that, obviously it boosts the property as well, because
value,
like their own bathroom, that really boosts the tenants. Tenants really love that. So so that's the rent to rent HMO, which is all to do with co-living, and the investor will be charging per room
at that point.
Yes, at that point. So let's say they typically go for like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 bedrooms. It's because they know that to where they're going to make money. And sometimes you can the living room as well, turn it into a bedroom, to make money. It's like every space counts basically when you're doing Yeah, so that's what they do. And here as well, during the last 5 to 10 years, they've sort of changed the regulations. Like previous, a landlord could just rent whatever. Sometimes you see tiny little spaces, and they're charging you atrocious amount for it. But now it's regulated. You need a license to be able to run an HMO. fire doors, you need fire extinguishers. So basically,
Which is
fire,
good.
health and safety.
Right.
The room needs to be a certain amount, a minimum amount. If for a single person, as for if it's two people sharing, so everything is pretty much coordinated. And sometimes you also have like some areas as well where you cannot have that done there. So we sort of have like especially in London, we have like boroughs, which is like little government
Right. Areas.
local governments, which are they're responsible for their areas. So they set their own rules. So if you wanted to go into that, you would need to check what your local government is saying regarding the HMO, what their rules are and how to go about licensing yourself.
Okay.
So in terms of the service apartment, it follows the same route. You negotiate with a landlord or with an estate agent, and what you're going to use it for is for, service apartment, Airbnb. So, with people that are traveling and looking for alternative to the hotel, because more people want convenience. They want to be able to cook their own food.
Right. It's cheaper when you're traveling.
Exactly. It's cheap. It's cheaper. It's more convenient. It's flexible. You can go in and come. It's like home away from home.
Yeah. Right.
So, So with the rise of Airbnb and all of that, that's what most travelers, are looking into. And so that presented an opportunity in the market, and people are, renting properties to use it as that. And when they use it as that, obviously, when you rent it from a landlord or an estate agent, you've got to do it up to a high standard to make sure that you're attracting the target market that you want to reach, because there's so many properties, Airbnb and Booking.com. So if you want to stand out, you need to be doing a lot more to yours to make it, stand out.
Awesome. Thank you. That was extremely in-depth. So I definitely appreciate you going into each scheme and explaining what that entails. I know that a lot of things, the last point that you talked about, the rent to rent, which I believe was a BRR. I'm sorry, not the BRR. What was it? HMO. Yes, that's what it was. I was basically writing down the different acronyms and just explaining what they are, so our viewers can just go back and reference them. So HMOs, a lot of people nowadays, when the rise of Airbnb, we see people sharing their spaces. And we may have people on here who are thinking, okay, I have this huge house. I live here alone. What do I do? How can I make some money renting out the space that I have? An important fact that you brought out was the point that in HMOs, they make every space count, correct? So if you have somebody that comes to you and says, Cynthia, I have this house, it's 4 bedrooms, I'm the only one who lives here. How can I optimize my space in order to maybe have 3 more renters? What do I do? Where do I start? What would you advise them?
Okay, well, the fact that they have already 4 bedrooms in the house is super, because you live in 1 room and you have 3 more rooms to rent out. But let's say you choose to keep 1 room for your, in case family turns up, so you say you have 2 bedrooms to rent. You could also look at your living room. If your living room is something that you do not use, you could actually look at turning that. It's not connected to the it's not an open plan connected to the kitchen area, then you could look to using that to using your living room to use it as a bedroom. But another thing that you can do is you need to check the walls. If the walls are partitioned, you can actually reconfigure. So let's say if you have 2 extremely massive rooms, you can actually see if the walls are could be brought down if they're not solid walls.
Right.
It could be if they're partition walls, you could bring that down and then reconfigure so that you make the room slightly smaller, and then out of 2 rooms, create 3 rooms. And that is what you could do. But obviously that involves some cost. But that's cost that you do for once, and it could actually you recoup it in the time to come. Because if you can constantly have tenants living there, then that's extra money. And let's say you're renting it to people, that's 3 that's extra income that you never had. So within a year you could potentially pay it off, and then whatever comes after that is a huge profit, which actually again used to get yourself another property and carry on if you choose to become investor and build a portfolio.
That's awesome. And the reason why we talk about all of this is as a scheme for wealth building. We're just not, you're a property investor doesn't just buy one property and sell it or rent it out and get the next one just for the heck of it, right? They're wanting to do it. They're building their portfolio to build wealth as well. Exactly. So that's another thing to take note of. And that's a great description you gave us for the Airbnb, because we have a lot of people doing Airbnb or just renting out their spaces, and they're not really sure how to go about it, how to configure it. If you own the property, knocking down a wall, like you said, and reconfiguring the living space or the rooms may be something that's in the cards for you to better optimize your return on that particular space that you have. So thank you for giving us that basic that information. I know that it may seem like we're rushing through all of this. That is because we're short in time. But next week we're going to have another session. I'm having another session with Cynthia, and I'm going to have as many sessions as it takes for us to really get this information out there and drive home the point, the fact that real estate investing is a means to build wealth, and it is within reach, and we shouldn't shy away from it. Okay, so I'm just going to back up or skip a few of the things that I was going to ask you and just go straight to the point with your interior designing and doing up spaces. How can that add value to a property? Let's just say if I have a house and I'm wanting to sell it, how can your services add value to that house? Or if I have a house and I'm wanting to rent it out, okay, and not even only a house, office spaces, shared workspaces, how does that add value, and what would you recommend people do in that situation?
Okay, so interior design it goes hand in hand with property, with any property, and for whatever you choose to do with it, whether you want to sell or rent, or even, like I said, your home. Interior design goes hand in hand. So you cannot have a property and not do the designing or take care of it. So it's like maintenance, really. So if you were to rent or sell a property, how to add value is really so decluttering, and you have to declutter. If you're going to sell, you have to, if let's say you actually live in the property, it's a very good idea to declutter and take out some of excess stuff. Basically, you want to show to the potential buyer or even the potential buyer that's going to rent that, hey, you can just move in here and you can live here and you can live here well. You're trying to sell something. You're not selling a property, a brick and mortar. You're selling like an idea. You're selling a lifestyle. You're selling more than that. So that's got to translate. That's got to come through in your presentation, in how you're marketing the property. And to be able to market the property, to get good images, you need to have some sort of interior design or interior styling done to the property, which is called like home staging. I know this is very big in America, like home staging. Like people don't really sell empty houses no more, because when you sell it, when someone walks in, they cannot picture it in their mind. I mean, I'm a very person, and I find it difficult. I like imagery.
Likewise.
So you need to sell, you need to sell that to the person. You need to, you don't sell an empty house. Make sure that it is staged. If you cannot do it, then get somebody who actually knows how to do it. So that's how interior design adds value. Sometimes it could just even take, like, you need to repaint, and it brings the property alive. It makes it clean, because sometimes when you live in somewhere, or somewhere has been lived in for a while, you're not seeing it, that it's been tired. Let's say the word is it's tired. So you've got to refresh it. And when you refresh that, and you accessorize it and take fantastic pictures, it actually attracts. We all love beautiful things, and when you see a beautiful thing, you want to look at it. It actually draws you. So it's a way to draw prospective tenants and prospective buyers to your property. And you need to also remember that the competition is fierce. It's not just your property on the market, right? And you need to be able to catch the eye and the attention of the prospective buyer or tenant quickly. So you need to know what you're doing, and interior design helps you to do that, and that's how it adds value. And sometimes, I don't actually have the percentage off by heart. Actually, no, it says it sells. It's a staged home or a home that is it's been interior or interior design will sell like 3 times more. Oops, what's going on?
Sorry, I'm just showing them as you're speaking about interior.
Okay.
I apologize. I should have told you. I'm just showing them what some of the ideas that you've put together and how it's transformed spaces. So keep speaking. Ignore me.
Okay.
Go on.
So, that a house that is properly designed, well interior or home well staged will sell 3 times more than faster than a house that is not, and you would actually be able to get more money for it, because when people give you a below when let's say you're trying to sell and somebody comes and gives you a less amount than what you actually asked for, that's because they're thinking in their head, oh, I have to change this, I have to change that.
Good point.
That they're actually ticking down things that they have to do to get the property looking to how they want it. But if you have done that property to a high standard, they're only thinking, oh, I'm gonna move in, I'm just gonna move in, that's what they think. So that's how it adds value.
Okay, perfect. I mean, a lot of things that you have said really does make sense, because I actually didn't think about the fact there are times when I've gone into properties maybe to take a look at it, whether it's a apartment rental. I walk into an empty apartment and I think to myself, how on earth am I going to design, where is my couch going to stay in this very irregular living room or irregular bedroom? But it's helped a lot when the property management company has either staged the apartment. So when I walk in, it's like, wow, this is home. I just want to move in. Okay, right? Some people think that interior designing, it's a waste of money. You don't need to stage. But just like you said, nobody buys homes anymore without staging. Because when people walk in, okay, they immediately think, okay, how am I going to change this, change that? But when they see a very well curated space, design space, they walk in and think, okay, I like that. I would have never thought about this idea. So this is great. So I guess that's where interior, like you said, comes in, and that's where it's extremely important. You're selling a lifestyle. When you're selling property, you're investing in property, or even if it's your own personal space, right? You're creating a lifestyle for yourself. If it's investment property related, you're selling a lifestyle. You want to show people what it feels like, not only in terms of the furniture that you have or the items you have that you have within that house that you're designing. You're talking about smell. You're talking about the vibe. What vibe do you give off, right? So interior encompasses all of that. And I'm just showing us, I'm gonna I'm thinking we can see those pictures just fine. I'm just showing us a few of the idea boards that you've put together. And I see that you love color. You use a lot of color, and it looks like you're a colorful person yourself.
That's my branding, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, there are people who don't like color. They feel like, okay, if I add color into my home and I'm selling it, someone may walk in not like that color. What role does color have to play when it comes to designing interior? I know that you're naturally a bold person, especially if you're. How do you make somebody who is not naturally colorful love the colors that you put together for them?
Well, the thing is, color plays a very, very big role, especially to our emotional state. And different colors mean different things. I mean, I would not advise you to go overboard. I would advise you to actually make sure that the colors go well together. So don't go overboard and create a rainbow in your home. But look at, use the color wheel, look at colors that complement each other, or that sort of, what's the word? Complement, or sort of go off each other. Like, you can actually contrast it, or complement it, color. And sometimes you don't need to go for like massive pops of color. You could just use a little bit. It could be like probably your wall art is colorful. It could be probably your rug is colorful. I mean, those are things that are easily, if somebody walks in, they know that they change, things that they can change. I mean, usually for the walls, go for like lighter shades. Don't go for something that's too vibrant. Just go for lighter shades, because obviously walls paint cost a lot of money. So I would say lighter shades on the walls. But if you're accessorizing, you can be as bold as you want because it's easily changeable. If I don't like that cushion, I'm going to change it. And besides, it's been staged for that. So if you want to move in, and if you love the furniture so much, you say, I want to buy it, then fair enough. But you're bringing your own. So they're only giving you an indication of how you could create your own space that suits your own vibe, your own individuality.
Your own vibe.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. Thank you. I mean, you've provided amazing information for a start. I know that the subsequent sessions that we have, we'll go more in depth with different how to for people who want to maybe start doing it themselves. Just give them ideas, just like you said, have a pop of color with maybe a couch cushion, etc. So thank you very much for providing that information. Now, I guess I'm going to turn the questions back to you and Studio 1912. Okay, so where do you work? Where do you gain clients? Do you work locally, internationally, nationally? What is your area?
So I'm based in London, but I work across the UK. So essentially, I go where I am needed, where my services are needed. And so I travel up and down, doing work for investors. And what I'm looking to do now is, open myself to, worldwide. With technology, you can't really I cannot just be a London business. I could also work in the US, in Africa. I could also work in North America, South America, wherever I'm needed. If somebody comes to me and says, I have this project, would you like to get involved? If I share my ideas and say, this is the ideas I have, and they like it, and they say, okay, I want you to be part of it, it's,
go ahead.
Go there. So I'm London based. I travel, I work around up and down the UK, but I am also, available worldwide, to work worldwide.
Awesome. And if people want to contact you, how can they reach you? Where can they find you? What platforms are you on?
So I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook. I have a website, which is www.studio1912.com. I'm on Facebook as Studio 1912. So I mean, it's 1912, but the 12 is like spelled out. You know how you spell 12.
So
it's not 1912. No, you wouldn't find me as that. Probably someone else. So I'm 1912 as in TWELVE. So I'm on Facebook as that. I'm on Instagram as that. So I'm on email. Yeah.
Awesome. So if people want to reach you, they can reach you on Facebook, like you said, Instagram, and your website. If anybody wants one-on-one, one-on-one consultation, that's the word, they can reach you as well, right? Is there an email they can reach out to?
Yeah. hello@studio1912.com, or you can send me, you could leave a message on our Facebook in DM. So you can DM us, and we can get it going. So it doesn't matter where you are. We can do, Zoom calls these days, Google Meet. So anyone, and I can help you, because if I send you my mood board, like some of the ideas that, has been, you've seen going, you like it, then, essentially it's like an e-design. I send it to you, you show me what it is you want to achieve, and I send you some ideas, and I can be on the video and help you, put all the styling and say, up down a bit, slides, tell you what to do.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I thoroughly enjoyed my session with you today. You are our very first guest, so thank you for being the scapegoat.
Thank you.
I appreciate you did great. I appreciate your insights. I appreciate your knowledge. I cannot take it for granted just because you charge other people to provide the same knowledge you're providing us for free. So I want to thank you for your time on this fine Saturday evening or afternoon for you. It's just the start of our day here. Again, Cynthia Tabe, thank you so much. Studio 1912. Cynthia is your girl. If you just need all the knowledge that we have dispersed here today, reach out to her. If you need her contact information, you can get it from me. You can get it from her. She's more than willing to work with you globally around the world, no matter where you are. Again, thank you for joining us, Cynthia. And you're just gonna hang tight. Let me just do my final final goodbyes. And before I let you go, what is one fun thing you want us to know about you? Fun fact. It could be anything. It could be your favorite food, favorite language, favorite color, the weirdest place you've ever traveled to.
Favorite color.
No, well, it doesn't have to be color. Color is quite boring. We already know you're a bold person.
Let's see. Fun fact, I studied in Spain, Salamanca, Spain.
Salamanca. So you can speak Spanish?
I can.
Say something.
Hola, ¿cómo estás? ¿Estás bien?
Say something more than hola, ¿cómo estás? Okay.
Estoy una chica y vengo de un país que se llama el Camerún.
Perfect. There you go. Whatever you said, I heard Cameroon, which means you're from Cameroon. I am too. All right, guys. Again, thank you for joining. Once again, all the information provided on this show, on this segment, is only for informational purposes only. It is not a direct recommendation to any one person. If you need recommendations, reach out to us individually. More than happy to walk with you. Cynthia, everybody else, thank you for joining. Oh, before I go, I apologize. There was one question I did not pull up this. Can you explain just a little relationship between life insurance and buying a home? Just briefly.
Briefly. Basically, it was because the mortgage company tells you you've got to get a life insurance. And like I said, they need to cover their backs just in case something happens to you and you're no longer on this earth. They need to make sure that they can get their money. Okay.
So let's just put it in layman terms. The mortgage company wants to make sure that when you die,
right.
if you die, we're all going to die someday, they can recoup their money back. So that's why they need you to have some type of life insurance. So thank you for that question, Ruth. And again, thank you everyone for hanging with us. It was an amazing show. Thank you, Cynthia. You did great. We will see you next week. Once again, this is Frugal Feeds. Thank you for joining. As usual, have an awesome Saturday. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.